North Korea has issued a sharp warning to the U.S. just hours before President Trump heads to Japan for an official visit. Pyongyang's main news agency says negotiations with the U.S. will never resume unless Washington eases demands for total denuclearization.
Meanwhile, back in Washington, President Trump has given Attorney General William Barr new tools to review the origins of the Russia investigation. Paula Reid has more from the White House.
This is all nonsense.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler slammed the investigation into the origins of the Russia probe.
There is no basis whatsoever to believe that anybody in the intelligence community did anything wrong in terms of starting the investigation.
The president doesn't see it that way.
A phony investigation based on no facts, based on an overthrow of the president.
In a memo late Thursday, the White House announced William Barr can bypass agencies who usually control whether their secrets are made public. Barr will now decide what the public learns about the origins of the investigation. It's yet another escalation as the war of words between President Trump and Speaker Nancy Pelosi reached a fever pitch Thursday.
I wish that his family or his administration or his staff would have an intervention.
Crazy Nancy.
She's a master of distraction. We will all agree on that.
She's lost it.
The president lobbed insults at his Democratic rivals while standing in front of a group of farmers as he announced $16 billion in aid for farms that have been hurt by his so far unsuccessful trade war with China.
I'm an extremely stable genius.
Speaker Pelosi shot back in a tweet, "When the extremely stable genius starts acting more presidential, I'll be happy to work with him on infrastructure, trade, and other issues." Facing a stalemate at home, the president is heading abroad to Japan and a friendlier audience.
Prime Minister Abe said to me very specifically, "You are the guest of honor. There's only one guest of honor."
Only one guest of honor, Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
The President of the United States.
So, Paula, I'm glad you were here with us because we have quite a variety of different things to talk to you about. But let's start with this latest stuff out of North Korea. North Korea is saying that the nuclear talks are never going to resume unless the U.S. eases demands on total denuclearization. We all kind of knew that, right? That was the sticking point. And the difference between what the U.S. thought was denuclearization and what North Korea thought was denuclearization. But anyways, I digress. Right. So this comes as the president heads to Japan. What can we expect from his visit to Japan? I presume that on the agenda will be North Korea.
Yes, and in many ways here during this trip, you're going to see Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's long game with the Trump administration really paying off. Remember, he was the first foreign leader to meet with Trump after he was elected. He flew to New York for a sit-down with him in Trump Tower. But the two men have diverged frequently on policy, in particular North Korea. Abe tends to be the most hawkish of the Asian leaders on the issue of North Korea, while President Trump has, of course, tried to make inroads with Kim Jong-un. But as the president continues to face these renewed challenges from Pyongyang, and also as he seeks to sort of counterbalance what's happening with China and this ongoing trade war, it's clear Abe is really his primary ally in the region. There could be discussions about trade between Japan and the U.S., but so far officials really won't commit to too many details about that. And at this point, this trip, it looks to be more about ceremony than substance. So far on the agenda, they have a state banquet, front row tickets to a sumo wrestling match, and there will also be a visit to a U.S. naval base to honor the troops for Memorial Day.
So Paula, let's focus. I can't wait to see the president of the sumo match.
You know it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I love sumo. Back in Washington, Paula, President Trump has given the Attorney General William Barr these new powers to investigate the investigators and the origins of the 2016 Russia probe. I thought it was striking that in a press, in an availability to the press, the president was asked about using the word treason, because under U.S. law, if you are convicted of treason, you can be put to death. And the president went on to list a number of people, including the former FBI director James Comey and Lisa Page and Peter Strzok and a variety of other people in answering that question about treason. And now you've got this investigate the investigators powers that the AG has been granted, Paula. So how are these powers, and what are these powers, and how unprecedented is all of this?
These sweeping powers that he has given to his loyal attorney general required the CIA and the country's 15 other intelligence agencies to cooperate with the attorney general as he and a U.S. attorney in Connecticut investigate the origins of the Russia probe. Now, of course, as you just noted, this new power grant, this came just hours after the president did his usual roll call of political adversaries who he wants to see investigated. Now, Barr has already proven he is willing to do the president's political bidding. And now, by granting him this new authority to select what is declassified, he can now control the narrative of the Russia investigation. But there are reports that specifically why Barr needs this power is because he is looking into what foreign assets the CIA had in Russia in 2016 and what those informants were telling the agency.
So, Paula, what does this say about the president's relationship with the intelligence community?
It's complicated. The president has repeatedly undermined a U.S. intelligence gathering, particularly, it seems, out of this anger and resentment he has towards the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 campaign. There are concerns among counterintelligence officials I've spoken with that now some important sources may be reluctant to cooperate with the U.S. if they're concerned that for political reasons they could be identified. Now, historically, though, these agencies have not always fully cooperated in oversight initiatives, which is part of why other justice officials argue this is necessary in order to really fully vet what happened to launch this investigation.
I think it's sort of interesting, or maybe it's sort of mildly ironic, that here's the president saying all these investigations have got to stop. If you don't stop investigating me, I will stop working on legislation with you. By the way, we should continue to investigate the investigators.
You know, we pointed this out yesterday, that Bill Clinton, when he was being impeached, was working with his enemies, if you want to call them that, on the other side of the aisle. He was working with Newt Gingrich. He was working with Tom DeLay to balance the budget, to bring about a surplus in the budget. He helped negotiate the end of the Bosnian War. There were a lot of things that the President of the United States said, look, because of this is one thing, but I'm able to, remember that word, compartmentalize?
Yes.
He was able to compartmentalize his job and continue doing the job of the American people while he was under this impeachment.
It may have saved his approval rating as a result, because he was able to get stuff done. But we're sort of going off on a tangent here. But
well, it's because, Paula, the president says that he doesn't want to have any kind of infrastructure until the investigations end. So what is he going to do? That the job of the president is to get about the business of the country.
Certainly part of the president's duty is to work with Congress. It's the only way you get legislation passed. One idea, though, that officials here have tried to float as a way he can work around Congress is through administrative action. But let's be clear, this president and his predecessor, Barack Obama, pretty much anything significant that they tried to do through administrative action was almost immediately blocked through the courts. So if he tries to go around Congress by using his executive power, it's unlikely he's really going to have anything significant or substantial to deliver as he campaigns in 2020, because anything he tries to do, that's likely going to be blocked and litigated. Ultimately, these two sides, there are no winners here. Both sides are slinging mud. They do have to come together if they want to have any accomplishments on infrastructure, on healthcare, on border security. But right now, it does not appear that they are willing to come together to work on things. It appears that both sides want to continue slinging mud, to dig in, try to rally their base this way. It's not clear if either side will be successful.